Health is one of the most important things any person can have. However, not everyone has direct access to healthcare because it is too expensive. In fact, 60% of Filipinos die without seeking medical treatment. That means 6 out of 10 Filipinos who succumb to sickness die without ever seeing a doctor.
Dapat ang bawat Pilipino ay kahit wala kang pambayad, dapat bibigyan ka ng karampatang serbisyo sa kalusugan. Dahil buhay yung pinag-uusapan natin dito. Kahit mahirap ka o mayaman ka, ang value ng buhay mo, walang katumbas. So dapat bawat Pilipino meron talagang access to quality healthcare.
This is where the universal healthcare comes into the picture.
Yung universal healthcare kasi, pag tingin siya sa isang healthcare system na dapat bawat Pilipino ay makaka-access ng quality health services. At itong framework na ito ay binuo ng mga professors sa UP Manila noong 2009. So, doon nabuo yung blueprint ng universal healthcare.
The Universal Healthcare or Republic Act 10606 was signed into law last year by the President, granting health insurance for all Filipinos. The law will ensure everyone, especially the poorest of the poor, will get health insurance coverage from PhilHealth. Universal healthcare is a government mandate which ensures that every Filipino shall receive affordable and quality health benefits and services, including financing, as it is their right based on the Philippine Constitution.
Hindi lahat ng building blocks ng universal healthcare ay naisama doon sa tinatawag na Aquino Health Agenda. Ang naging tutok ng administration ay sa health financing, healthcare facilities, at saka yung sa attainment of the Millennium Development Goals.
However, a large number of the population are unaware that the UHC exists or that they can avail themselves of it. And many are still not members of PhilHealth or do not know how to apply and register. These are just some of the problems facing the UHC and the people who need it most. What is the universal healthcare? What does it cover? And how can we avail ourselves of this type of service? Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on 9TV. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight, we will discuss your legal rights according to the Universal Healthcare Program, what you need to know about the program, and how to avail of it.
Our guests for tonight are Dr. Ramon Paterno, member of the Universal Healthcare Study Group of UP Manila, and Mai Fabros, WYC Coordinator of Women Health. Good evening, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Good evening. So, Dr. Buching Paterno, and
Yes.
of course, Mai.
Yes.
We can call you Dr. Buching, but so we want to make it more casual.
Yes, and I really find this topic very relevant.
Yes.
One, you have this Ebola scare, so a lot of people are more conscious about getting sick or catching a virus that's very threatening. But second, me, I was sick for the past several days since last week up to now. And even in that short period, I was starting to see how expensive healthcare and medical costs can be. So I was starting to think parang paano pa yung iba that you know earn less or have very little savings? How can they deal with sudden sicknesses or health isses?
Yeah, so maybe we can start off by lest our audience might think this is med talk, this is legal HD, you know, but we would like there are legal aspects to this also, because obviously people would like to know their rights, no, with regard to this program or this law. So let's start off with what is universal healthcare and the whole program. What is it about?
I think the introductory film, the interview with Joanne Josana, I think she described it. No? Under a universal healthcare system, all Filipinos should have access to healthcare and health services based on health needs, and not on capacity to pay.
All right.
And it's not charity. We want to stress it's not charity for the poor.
Or a dole out.
It's not a dole out because it's prepaid.
Okay.
It's prepaid either through taxes or social health insurance premiums. In our case, PhilHealth premiums. No?
Okay,
So maybe you can also start off from there, since it's already prepaid. How much would people expect to pay if you're covered by universal health care?
I think that it's important for people to know that who are covered in essence. So what Dr. Butching mentioned, that there are those who can avail of it primarily because they are employed and their employees are providing the premiums that are necessary. And there are those who are covered primarily because of the revenue and the resources that the government is putting into the PhilHealth. And one primary source of that is the Syntax amended law, which provides, for instance, for this year, around 35 billion pesos to ensure that the first and second quintile, the poorest Filipinos, are covered. So in essence, there are those who are employed who should have access to this. There are those who are self-employed who are paying on their own, like OFWs and entrepreneurs such as yourself and others. Are working mothers who are working at home and are part of the informal sector. And then there are those who are, we refer to as service patients or indigents.
So how does that work? You obviously have people with capacity to pay, those that are employed, those are entrepreneurs. But then when you're talking about indigents, they won't have a source of income. So how does this whole system work then to make sure that, as you've mentioned earlier, the goal should be it's based on need and not capacity to pay? How does it even out?
Well, as Mai started to describe, PhilHealth has different member groups. Now, when it comes to the indigents, it's our policy that through the Department of Social Work, the SWD, through their National Household Targeting System, they will identify from 40 to 60% of total households, Filipino households. And they will be automatically enrolled in the indigent program of PhilHealth with the national government paying for their premiums.
Automatically enrolled, so they don't have to do anything?
Exactly.
They don't have to do anything, but here is one problem. 60% of households are identified, enrolled under the National Household Targeting System. But our feedback from the community is many of them don't know that they're enrolled. And if they don't know that they're enrolled, they cannot use their PhilHealth benefits.
Okay, how are you addressing that? How are you addressing that particular issue? Obviously, it's like having a gift,
Is there an information campaign by the DSWD or DOH?
PhilHealth.
By PhilHealth.
Both PhilHealth and DSWD. PhilHealth, as a government corporation, actually conducts mass information campaign and part of their PhilHealth Cares campaign, which what they're trying to show that aside from those who are part of the government CCT program, who are immediately, like what Dr. Butching, members of PhilHealth, what they're trying to do is reach out to the citizens, to the members, to utilize the cards.
So they're given cards?
They are given cards.
So everyone who's an indigent can go to PhilHealth and get that card?
Yes. Then they should have that card. Actually, what happens is that the cards are given to them by the local governments, through the local governments, who are part of the CCT program. So the National Household Targeting, these are, previously they were called the sponsored members, but now they're called the indigents. So because they're expanding it, previously it was primarily members of the 4Ps, the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, who were the immediate members of PhilHealth. But now they're expanding it to cover the second and first poorest quintiles in the Philippines. So in essence, they are routing it through the local government to ensure that all those members should have and should be informed that they are members of PhilHealth.
How poor do you have to be one of these indigent members? That may automatic card.
I don't know if you've seen the National Housing Targeting Survey. There are a lot of proxy indicators to identify if you are poor. But we can discuss it, but I think it's a very, very
It's not fixed on
extensive.
just a certain
It's
income
not fixed on
level.
it's not fixed on a certain income level. There are a lot of proxy indicators of poverty, but I think what is one of the biggest critique about it is that there are still those who are not covered. If you talk about transient poor who move from one community to another, who do not have houses, who do not have homes to speak of, who live under the bridges of whichever cities. So because of the magnitude of poverty and because of the intensity of inequality in the Philippines, there are still a lot of Filipinos who are not identified because it is very difficult, very, very difficult to...
But I guess for our viewers out there, if you suspect that you cannot afford medical health and services, healthcare services, then you can simply inquire with your
Exactly.
local government unit and see if you qualify for this program. Because maybe you're qualified na, naka-enroll ka na pala, and you
Hindi
don't
mo
even know
alam.
it.
Totoo.
You
Totoo.
try not to go to the
The
hospital
first thing
when
that
you
they
can.
have to do is actually go to their barangay hall and apply for an indigency certification.
Even if you're not, let's say, a resident there. Let's say you're living under the bridge of Makati, for example.
If you're living under the bridge of Makati and you're within the jurisdiction of the barangay, then you can
should
avail
be
of
qualified.
it.
Okay, so you don't need an address.
You don't need, as long as the barangay officials recognize you as a constant fixture in their barangay. And I think that's...
Constantly, ikaw yung nanlilimos sa corner na yan.
But sometimes in the implementation, I think the DSWD requires an address.
That's
and
the
there's
main-
where the poorest fall through the
cracks.
Through the cracks.
Sometimes they don't have an address.
But if you, this has been one of the major reforms under RA 10606, which was mentioned. That's the PhilHealth law of 2013.
Yeah.
The national government gave 35 billion pesos as premiums for PhilHealth.
That's a lot of
And
money.
if the premium for an indigent family is 2,400, that will be about, I think, 14 million households. And if we divide our income groups into what we call quintiles, that will cover almost the poorest 60%. That's how many should have been covered
For
By
this
that 35 billion premium payment,
at that 35 billion subsidy
that subsidy.
from the national government.
And that premium is covered for this year alone.
Okay.
And
So
that-
that's
And
very...
annually, there should be a capitation. There should be an additional source of funds for that. So
Every
Okay.
Every year
So
should be,
that's very
every year.
helpful information. We'll go deeper into this topic and with the other issues. We still have a lot to discuss with our guest. Legal Help Desk will return after these messages. The Universal Healthcare was written with the intention of providing quality healthcare to all Filipinos. However, to be able to have access to the services and facilities of the program, one must be a member of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation or PhilHealth.
True to President Aquino's commitment to universal healthcare, lumaki bigla ang pondo para sa national budget for health. Dahil na din sa pagpasa ng sin tax law, nagkaroon ng karagdagang pondo. At bulto nun ay napunta sa health insurance o yung PhilHealth ng mga mahihirap. At dahil dun sa act na yan, ngayon, ang goal ng gobyerno ay bawat Pilipino protektado.
All employees of government and private sectors, OFWs, self-employed individuals, retirees, and pensioners, and sponsored indigents are eligible to apply and register for PhilHealth membership. Though there are different steps and requirements for different types of memberships, the more basic requirements are the following. A completely filled out PhilHealth membership registration form. A certified true copy of your birth certificate by the NSO. Your baptismal certificate. Government-issued identification cards. 2 1x1 ID pictures. You can also register online through PhilHealth's website. Once you've registered, you will then be given and issued your PhilHealth number. To continuously avail yourselves of your benefits, make sure to pay your premiums on time to avoid any arrears. You're still watching the Legal Help Desk on 9TV with our guest, Dr. Ramon Paterno and Mai Fabros.
All right, so we were talking about universal healthcare program, and a lot of people are confused. No? People are saying, okay, can I avail of my rights under the universal healthcare law? Or, you know, they think there's a law where they have the rights
but then
are there, no? Are laid out.
Yes.
Can you explain, Doc, maybe perhaps if what this means, this UHC? You know?
There are many ways of financing universal health care. As a national policy, we chose that it will be financed through PhilHealth.
Okay.
So, although our goal is to cover all Filipinos, as we are implementing it, you have to be a member of PhilHealth.
Okay. And Dr. Butching, maybe you can clarify this Universal Healthcare Act. Is it a law, or is it what type of regulation is this, so people can refer to it?
Universal health care in the Philippines is being implemented through a department order of the DOH, of the Department of Health. No? And it's called Kalusugan Pangkalahatan, which really is a translation of Health for All. No? And the way it's being implemented, it has 3 pillars. The first pillar is to increase financial risk protection through a revitalized PhilHealth. So it really is a national policy that we have to do this through PhilHealth. The second is to increase access of Filipinos to quality health care, and there are 3 subheadings under that. It's health facility enhancement program. So the Department of Health is pouring money into building health facilities. In terms of health human resource, it's augmentation of our health human resource through programs like the Doctors to the Barrio, the Nurse Deployment Program, the midwife, rural midwife programs.
Right.
And the third component of that second pillar is ensuring access to medicines.
Okay.
And if we achieve the first 2 pillars, we should be able to achieve Millennium Development Goals plus non-communicable disease targets. No?
Okay.
But
so those are the pillars of UHC.
Those are the pillars of UHC.
So let's say an indigent will not be able to say, oh, I'm claiming my rights. I'm going to this hospital. May sakit ako. I want to avail of my rights under the UHC. Can a person technically do that and go to a government hospital?
Well, there is a Department of Health order that they can rely on.
But there is a higher order, and it's the Constitution of the Philippines.
So
and Section 15 says the state recognizes the right to health of all Filipinos.
Okay.
And I think that is a higher order than saying you have to be a PhilHealth member to avail of your health as a right.
Plus, we have related laws like those that prohibit hospitals from turning away patients in
especially government
emergency
offices,
situation.
Government hospitals, rather. So that is not allowed. So we can tell our viewers now, all our viewers, basically if they go there and they're feeling sick, they're feeling ill, no hospital should be able to reject them, right?
Reject you. But
well, there's a difference between
enforce
feeling ill and also emergency situations.
Correct.
Because our law is
Yes.
clear.
Emergency.
It's emergency,
Oh,
yeah.
pag kayo sabi mo na may flu ako, may ubo, of
Yeah.
course
Punta ka
they're
sa
gonna
isang-
ask you to pay, no?
Yes.
But speaking of paying,
Mai.
Miss Mai, what about the cost? Because earlier, first segment, we were talking about basically the indigent. Those are covered by the program, but they don't really have to pay premiums. But for those who are members of PhilHealth or you're paying your taxes correctly, how much more cost does this entail?
From them? Actually, nothing. It's because the government is already putting in the resources, and the taxes that the revenue where these come from actually are not coming from the income tax. I just want to clarify that the funds for the indigency membership for PhilHealth actually comes from the Sin Tax Amendment Law.
So those
so
cigarettes and
yung
mga
kita,
alcohol,
yung incremental revenue, yung kita mula sa pagdagdag ng buwis sa sigarilyo at alak na nakakasama sa kalusugan, siya ding pinagkukunan ng pondo para siguraduhin ng bawat Pilipino, lalo na ang mahihirap na tinatamaan talaga ng matitinding kawalan ng access sa serbisyo, sila yung magiging member. So, hindi po to bawas sa benepisyo natin bilang mga taxpayers, pero ito yung nag-expand pa tayo para siguraduhin yung mga revenue ay magagamit para sa lahat.
Thank you, Mai. That's very ironic.
I
No?
think,
Those who choose to be not healthy, kayo yung magbayad. For
So
those
the way
who want to be.
they're funding their own medical coverage
At dapat lang.
through cigarettes,
Oo.
through purchase of cigarettes and alak. They're funding their own medical coverage. So, which is, I guess that's a poetic justice.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have some questions from our viewers. Peachy asked us via Twitter, do I need to be a member of PhilHealth in order to avail of the services of the universal health care? I think we've answered the question, Doc. Yeah.
In the Philippine model, you have to be a member of PhilHealth. But there are other countries who do it in a different way.
Yes.
And the one most recent was Thailand. In 2002, they implemented a universal coverage scheme wherein they declared all Thais are covered by virtue of citizenship.
This is work? Did this work?
This is for
It's
Thai.
working.
Yes.
It's working.
Okay.
It's
It's
working.
working.
And one of the way we know it's working is a professor from Harvard School of Public Health, and he's an economist, William Shao, said if you want to see a new model of social health insurance, look to Thailand.
So, so the answer to that question of Peachy is that no, you have to be a PhilHealth member.
In the Philippines, you have to be a
Yes.
PhilHealth member.
But at least for those who cannot afford to pay the premiums
They
of
can.
PhilHealth, they know that they will be qualified based on the indigent program.
But I'd like to go back. I think you had a question of cost. Mai answered it, I think, referring to the premiums, but I'd like to answer it referring to you're a PhilHealth member. Even if you're an indigent member, you go to a hospital, you will most likely still have to pay out of pocket.
Okay, we'll go into that later.
Later, okay,
Yes,
okay.
more details into what if it's not, you
Not
don't
enough,
cover
enough.
everything. We have another question from Maureen. Can I go to any hospital to avail myself of the medical services of the Universal Healthcare Program? Or is this only available at public hospitals such as PGH? So I think this is a segue to that discussion as well.
Okay. What we are doing is what is called the progressive realization of universal health care. For benefits that you avail in the hospital, what PhilHealth is doing is what we call no balance billing for the indigent patients admitted in public hospitals. So this is a technical term. No balance billing, and all the sponsored or the indigent PhilHealth members should know this. They should not be charged extra. They should not pay anything
At all.
once they get admitted to public hospitals.
Public hospitals is the
As
key
indigent.
word.
As indigent
So, public
PhilHealth
hospital.
members in public hospitals. That is what is called as no balance billing,
Policy of the PhilHealth.
meaning that the hospital cannot charge balance over and above what PhilHealth will pay for the case of that indigent person.
Okay.
Okay. If you're a middle income earner.
Even PhilHealth data, they're saying only about some 40% of indigent PhilHealth members have totally no out-of-pocket.
Only 40%.
Only 40% now. And that was a big improvement because in 2013, I think it was only 7%.
7%.
So for Maureen who's asking this question, if she wants to go to a private hospital and as a PhilHealth member, what would be the likely expenses for her?
Yes.
No, I think it has to be clarified that because the mechanism is you should be a member of PhilHealth, then it means the hospital, that regardless if it's public or private, it should be PhilHealth accredited. And then that is another obstacle or a delay in terms of ensuring access to the universal health care. because not all health facilities
Are PhilHealth
are PhilHealth accredited, and that really prevents a lot of Filipinos from accessing.
How many how many percentage of hospitals are not PhilHealth accredited?
Definitely, all public health hospitals
Are PhilHealth
Are
accredited?
PhilHealth
I
accredited?
think the majority,
the majority are.
private hospitals are also
but because
accredited.
it is hospital based, you can imagine we live in an archipelago, and there are a lot of areas that do not have hospitals in essence. So you do not have all primarily the poorest Filipinos, the fisher folk, the rural Filipinos in the outskirts, in the geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas in the country, who will not be able to access a hospital, regardless if it's PhilHealth accredited or not. So
Right.
immediately, the cost is very high, because they would have to travel even more to be able to reach the care, emergency at that, if needed.
Right.
diba? So
Good points, Mai. And later, perhaps we can discuss other questions from our viewers, but also other details of apparently a misnomer, because universal health does not mean universal as in all the
total
medical
coverage.
As of now.
hospitals. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'd have to enlighten our viewers where they can go if they can really not can't afford to pay for health services. We'll take another short break. Legal Help Desk will return, so stay tuned. You're still tuned in to Legal Help Desk on 9TV with our guest, Dr. Ramon Paterno and Mai Fabros.
Okay, so maybe we could talk about the coverage, because I think mainly we were discussing this, that the coverage of PhilHealth is really more on hospitalization or being admitted, right?
Yes, yes.
Can you clarify on this, expound on this, Doc?
I think since around 2001, reforms in PhilHealth have already been identified. Aside from targeting universal population coverage, they were being asked to provide comprehensive benefits.
Meaning?
And comprehensive benefits must include not only hospitalization, but it must include outpatient care, and one major component will be outpatient medicines.
Okay.
If we look at health financing of the Philippines, more than 50% comes out of pocket. And if you look at that out of pocket, more than 50% goes to medicines.
Okay. I hope you don't mind. Let's be
Sure,
more
sure.
practical with
Yes,
our
yes.
approach. Because for me, I was sick the past few days and still sick, but at least the worst was like during the weekend, I had to go to the hospital. And when you said 50% is out of pocket from the patient, for me, in my case, it was 100%. So for those viewers out there who, one, don't know how to use their PhilHealth, what can they expect? But because for me, honestly, even if I've read the PhilHealth law, my impression is that it's more hassle for me to have to go through the process of claiming my benefits than having to just pay it myself. So maybe you can walk us through the process. How do we really utilize our benefits from
maximize the
PhilHealth?
benefits under
so,
the-
kunwari yan, nagkasakit ako, I go to the hospital. One, I go to check, have lab tests and go to my physician. So what can we do?
We already mentioned that if you're indigent, you should not be paying anything from
At
out of
all,
pocket. No? But if you're not in the indigent program, you get admitted to a PhilHealth accredited hospital.
So hanapin first. First step, look
First,
for
Look for
You have to
accredited.
establish that you're a PhilHealth
Okay.
member.
You don't look indigent.
PhilHealth.
You don't look indigent. So that's
So
why.
PhilHealth member. I am a
You have to
PhilHealth
have
member. So
PhilHealth
for those
member.
who don't know that they are, they can check online, right? In
Yes,
the
they can
PhilHealth
check
website.
online.
If they're covered,
Yes.
they can check online.
Yes. If you are formally employed, you are an employee of a private company or the government, the company should be remitting your premiums, and therefore you should be covered.
you
Okay.
can see that on your pay slip. You
Okay.
should see that on your pay
Na may
slip.
deduction.
Na may deduction. And then when you go to the facility, you can also go straight to the PhilHealth office. There's a PhilHealth unit in almost similar to HMO. All hospitals have HMOs representatives there. PhilHealth also have representatives in these
If it's a
hospitals.
PhilHealth accredited hospital.
Hospital.
Okay,
Okay.
that's number
Yes.
2. And then if I am a covered PhilHealth member plus I go to a PhilHealth accredited hospital, how can I then get benefits?
The best way, and I'm told by PhilHealth that it's already in their information system and all you need would be a PhilHealth card, is to complete all the PhilHealth requirements before your discharge, and then the hospital will deduct that from your bill.
Yeah. I've
And
experienced
that will avoid the hassle of following it up in PhilHealth to get reimbursed.
to get the reimbursed.
So
no?
try
Yeah.
to do it
But
in the
yeah.
hospital.
Several
talaga.
years ago, my son was confined in the hospital for dengue. I had to go back to UP to get a certification that UP
Yeah.
has been paying my premiums.
Yes.
And that's the hassle.
That's the hassle.
That's
But,
the hassle.
yeah.
You're taking care of your child and you have to
And
go.
you're taking care of some. It happened to me. I have to fill up the CF1 form, CF2 form, CF3. And there's a lot of forms. No?
Forms.
Yeah, perhaps we can make that easier. Maybe find out how we
But
can.
Maybe this is
maybe
something
we
they
can
realize.
ask a PhilHealth officer in future shows because I know they're talking about a PhilHealth card and it's automated
And streamlining
information.
all
Streamlining the
even
system.
Yes,
Yeah,
whole
sometimes
yeah,
more.
all the
May sakit ka na nga eh. May sakit ka na ata. Ano pa.
Yeah.
Now,
But,
sorry.
but I think the more critical point there is that you're asking, how can you avail? There are case and packages that PhilHealth recognizes based on its identification of what are the critical and key health needs of the nation. So in essence, there are certain diseases and illnesses,
Illnesses.
health situations that they recognize. Dengue, for instance, pregnancy and childbirth, another.
Those are considered,
And then there's the new one called the Z package, which covers
Cancers.
cancer, kidney failure, renal
Kidney transplant,
kidney transplant, and
breast
others.
cancer.
So mostly parang end of stage diseases. So there, that is for us as citizens, that's a primary critical limitation of the coverage. Why? Because it does not really respond to the range of diseases and health concerns that we have as citizens. And it's tertiary in general. What it means is that it covers, it's primarily curative. So it does not really teach us to live healthy lifestyles. It doesn't teach us to explore preventive health mechanisms.
Which in the ideal world should
which
be
should
covered
be
also.
part of that. Like laboratory, you mentioned laboratory tests. Like
The test.
not a lot of tests or health advice or counseling that you need are covered in PhilHealth. So that is the other component. The commodities that you need, medicine, as well as do you have people who will take care and teach you and hold your hand and guide you, health professionals who can tell you how to conduct preventive lifestyle,
So
healthy lifestyle.
bottom line, we're still not there. No?
Yeah,
We're not
and that's a
We have a
distinction
long
that
way to go.
we do not have with Thailand. Thailand is aiming to become more preventive as opposed to curative.
All right, we still have some questions from our viewers. From Emerson, I have an HMO account. Is it still possible for me to avail of the services of the Universal Healthcare Program if the medical care and services that I need are not covered by my HMO? So,
Yes, you can actually, I think you've also experienced that. You can still use your HMO as well as PhilHealth.
but in this case, hindi covered ng HMO niya yung particular disease.
Pag hindi covered ng HMO,
can I
yun na
still-
nga. Kapag hindi siya part sa nire-recognize na cases at packages ng PhilHealth, even ng PhilHealth, then there's going to be the limitation. This is the other component of universal health care. The assistance that the Philippine government should provide its citizens. So if you go to a public health hospital, there is, aside from the PhilHealth desk, there is a social welfare desk wherein you may not be entirely overtly poor, but you are a struggling, working class family. And so you can go there and request for discounts and additional support from the hospital, from the public hospital, to provide, aside from PhilHealth, additional discounts so that you can, your disease or your hospitalization can be covered
Outside of the HMO.
outside of the HMO. So may ganong mga,
May mga ganong-
and that's what Dr. Paterno is saying, Dr. Puching is saying, that we should be able to blend various resources to ensure universal health care. So it's not just one component. It should not be, because it becomes more constricting and stringent to ensure that all Filipinos will have access.
Okay. We have another question from Naomi. Are senior citizens automatically covered by PhilHealth? How do we go about this? So from
Senior citizens?
Yes.
I understand Senator Gingona I'm not sure about the status of the law, but there's supposed to be automatic coverage by PhilHealth if you're a
But
senior
it's not been passed.
No,
The law.
I think it has been passed, and that's a discussion that is happening right now because it is a demand of senior citizens. But the crunching the numbers, how much does it entail?
Yeah.
And
can they cover it?
Can
No,
they-
because
and
automatic coverage doesn't mean that the senior citizens are paying the premium payments, no?
And then the
Be
other
covered.
component is that and then it should be so because senior citizens are Filipino citizens. And the premise and the heart of universal healthcare is that all Filipinos, regardless of age, should be covered. So,
Okay.
and that is the crux of it. Yun yung difficulty doon. Kasi kapag PhilHealth lang ang orientation natin, then we are already limited by how much resource PhilHealth has.
But to answer his question, senior citizens, are they automatically
Right
covered
now,
by
I think
PhilHealth?
that is the policy.
All right. Okay, now Gabby is asking, what does the universal healthcare program cover? Does it cover all types of diseases and conditions? I think
We
you
respond, yeah.
we responded on that already. Okay.
Maybe
Not
just
all.
to expound on
even
it.
more,
Yes.
please.
Many of us watching the implementation of universal health care are waiting for the comprehensive outpatient benefit package of PhilHealth. They've only rolled out what they call primary care benefit 1, which is mainly diagnostic. We were waiting for the PCB2, which should cover the medications for hypertension, for diabetes,
The test.
which are the more expensive medicines. No?
Okay. All right.
And I
So once they roll
Well,
that
that-
out, it should be a comprehensive package.
Okay.
And then I just want to emphasize that point because the outpatient benefit package, when you say comprehensive, if you look at how many people are actually getting sick, and if you disaggregate it even more, a lot of us, like for instance, if you didn't realize that you had to be hospitalized, it was primarily you just be outpatient. And because there's a limitation to that, it's actually even more expensive for those of us who are not hospitalized. Parang nangyayari pa, magpapa-hospital ka na lang para ma-cover
Okay.
ka.
Papa-cover na ako.
Diba? So, ang nangyayari, the health insurance system, and we know that either it's a national health insurance system or HMOs, you work around it to make sure that you're covered, which in essence does not reflect the needs.
Yeah.
It should,
Oo. So,
Should
So
not
at the
case.
moment, if
Oo.
you're just going in and you're not confined in the hospital, you're basically not covered by PhilHealth. Okay, so
there's
we're trying to say,
there's a temptation to kind of skirt around
magpa-confine ka na lang, Rod,
confine.
kahit nasipunin,
Yeah.
ubo lang.
and hindi lang sa hospitalization, pero even the health professionals who are part of the package kasi kasama ang professional fees doon, they have a tendency to perform particular case benefit package because they will earn more from it, or because they're forced also by the health insurance system to focus on these. So ang nangyayari there, for instance, like cesarean and normal or vaginal
Yeah,
birth,
they're
parang
gonna go the cesarean
to
route just
because
to
there's
be
higher
covered.
incentives as opposed to waiting for a vaginal delivery.
I see.
Okay, quite frustrating.
Yeah.
We have another
Yeah.
question from Kate on our Facebook page. I have been a PhilHealth member since 2003, and whenever I use it, the reimbursements take too long. Will the universal healthcare program address these kinds of problems?
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, this is a financial question, so
Yes.
maybe we'll throw it to you, May.
I think we discussed streamlining it, and what I want to emphasize to your viewers and to all of us is that PhilHealth, despite being a GOCC, people own it. Diba? In any company, anybody who provides the resources, diba? Initial investment for the company, you are a stakeholder, you are a shareholder. So we should be able to, I think, because people don't know that we are owners of PhilHealth in essence. If you pay the premium, you own PhilHealth. You're not just there as a consumer. You're not just there as a beneficiary. You own it because you paid. And PhilHealth as a corporation has been utilizing the premiums that you're paying, diba, to earn more and more. So they're investing. So ibig sabihin nun, if we have concerns about streamlining, then we have to raise it. There's a suggestion page in the PhilHealth website. There are PhilHealth offices scattered across the country, and we have to tell them that. We as citizens, and I think that's the entitlement or the rights aspect, we have to exercise that by saying that if PhilHealth really cares and PhilHealth, we own you, We own you. I pay 2,400 every year.
Yeah.
Then you have to make sure that it becomes easier for us to access. Diba?
Okay, but I guess to answer Kate's question, it is at the moment, it does take long to get the reimbursement.
But they're
Yes.
trying to streamline.
Streamline it. Okay.
They're
So
trying to
I guess a
streamline.
helpful tip to Kate is please do participate in
The
answering the,
dialogues, yeah.
feedback section of the PhilHealth website so that PhilHealth can get suggestions on how to streamline the process.
Yeah.
Do you have time for a last word?
Okay,
Yes,
sige,
yes, please.
sige,
Yes.
Dr. Butching.
Absolutely.
I think the true vision of universal health care is that it should be by virtue of citizenship. And then when it comes to cost, I think we should look to other health systems aside from the United States. In the United Kingdom, there was this filmmaker who went around and was asking patients, how much did you pay? And all of them looked at him. They couldn't understand the question. They couldn't understand why someone would ask, how much do you pay for health services? Because there are systems where you don't have to pay anything when you're sick. Because it's all paid for by the taxes.
Example, which systems?
United Kingdom, they call it the National Health Service.
I think Canada,
Canada as well.
I think
Canada,
it's a very good healthcare.
it's also the National Health Insurance Program. Even Cuba, a country that is not that well developed, they can afford to provide health care for all their citizens.
So it's really a matter of priority.
Yeah.
Like how
And
can
political will.
So-
And I think we'd like to assert we have the money.
We do. We do have.
We do have the money, and we talk about tax effort or the percent of taxes collected as percent of GDP, and that was reiterated by the Department of Finance. They said they can improve their collection, and we could cover this through
Thank you, Dr.
better
Butching.
collection.
That's very
Thanks
well
so much.
said. Parang
Yeah.
yung health is wealth, naging wealth is health. Because if the government has a political will to spend on this program, then you
Actually,
really
it's-
make health available
It's
to everyone.
interrelated.
Yes.
We can't fully develop if we are a sickly nation.
Yeah.
And we remain a sickly nation if we don't develop, if we don't have inclusive
It's
growth.
just ironic that we have to smoke and drink more in order for us
To
to
finance
have,
it.
to finance this whole thing.
But it won't all come from syntax.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you so much
Thanks
for
so much.
sharing your expertise with us today. It's really very helpful, not only to us, but of course to our viewers.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much.
Paterno.
Thank you also
Thank you,
for
Dr.
hosting
Thank
us.
you,
Thank
Doc,
you,
and
Mary.
Miss Marie. Thank you
you.
so much. Legal Help Desk will return after this short break. Welcome back to Legal Help Desk on 9TV.
Yeah, it's so appropriate for you because you were sick, partner.
I was
Di
so
ba?
sick, but
Yeah.
at first hand, I was experiencing the past few days the cost of just
You were,
getting back to health and
Yeah.
having to pay for
So did
all
you
the
not,
healthcare services.
you didn't want to just apply for the PhilHealth, or you just followed the
kasi
hassle? Or?
I've been really busy the past few days. So this is where you see that sometimes you have, as they've said, a vision of providing universal health care for everyone. But when it comes to the actual implementation, accessibility really goes into how convenient is it.
Yeah.
So even if we say that we're covered by PhilHealth,
Yeah.
if it's difficult
The
to
bureaucracy,
get reimbursements or even to get paid for the coverage at the instant that you're sick. Tama yung sabi
Yeah.
mo kanina, may sakit ka na nga, mag-fill out ka pa ng
Yeah,
forms.
anong sasakit ang ulo mo?
Yeah, that's a challenge, streamlining
Yeah.
and making sure that it is accessible, the benefits are accessible. But at least to give the viewers a recap, there is this universal healthcare concept that is provided through a DOH regulation, and that means making healthcare, quality healthcare available to all Filipinos based on need, not based on the ability to pay. And one of the major proofs of this would be the fact that even if you're an indigent or you cannot afford to pay premiums, then you get automatic coverage, for those who are indigents. But make sure that you're covered by asking your barangay or your local government unit, and you should have a PhilHealth card.
Yeah. So I think if there's any message that we can give to our televiewers now is that if you're not covered by PhilHealth, usually you are covered by PhilHealth if you're an employee. You have to demand from your employer PhilHealth coverage. Of course, if you're self-employed, you have to go to PhilHealth so that you can apply as a self-employed. Now, if you're not covered under these, you're a senior citizen or you're perhaps a indigent, as mentioned by Karen, then what we would suggest is that you go to the nearest PhilHealth office or to your nearest LGU. They will assist you because by law, they cannot refuse you. You have to be covered by PhilHealth. So that's the start of this universal healthcare program. Again, there's no law. Just to clarify everything, there's no universal healthcare law. It's a department order of the Department of Health, and the PhilHealth program is just part of that. It's part of that.
Again, it's very important that you are covered by PhilHealth, either as someone who pays premium, which should be the case if you're employed, or if you're self-employed by enrolling. And you can do this by even enrolling online on PhilHealth's website. And again, just as a brief walkthrough provided by Dr. Paterno earlier, if you want to claim your benefits, first, make sure you're covered by PhilHealth, and second, look for a PhilHealth accredited hospital. And then when you're there, look for the PhilHealth desk so that you can fill out the proper forms to get your medical benefits.
And if you are claiming a reimbursement from PhilHealth and it's taking long, feel free to make a comment on the PhilHealth website. We are, as mentioned by our guest, Mai, we are stakeholders of PhilHealth, and therefore it is to our benefit that we complain and voice out any concern that we have with regard to the processes of PhilHealth. All right. So that caps our discussion on universal healthcare. Hope you learned something over the week. We have received some questions and comments from our viewers. And our first recap question is from Jero or Hero. Can an employee be on a floating status for more than a month? Do we have any regulation that addresses such issue on our labor code?
Actually, it's very interesting, I guess, Jero, what you mean by floating status, because one, it can be just, this is mean probationary status, because if you're floating in a sense na hindi ka ginagawang regular employee and you're just on probation, then obviously you cannot be put on probationary status for an indefinite period. Kailangan meron niyang term. But then, for just over a month, meaning siguro this is more of
you can have a probation period more than a month.
Yeah, so I guess ang question, this would be yung floating status na either hindi siya fired pero suspended. Yeah. So in this case, what would be applicable is basically yung concept natin na what you call termination.
Yes.
It's also equivalent to termination when you're put on floating status for such a long period.
Yeah. I guess what we're saying here, there's no legal, a specific legal term that says floating.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Wala, no? So it's either you're suspended
there
or...
kasi yung question if floating status for... So in what way? Are you already employed by them?
Or were you employed for... Or have you been just employed for 1 month? If so, kung 1 month lang, then probation ka pa, that's still within the probationary period, no? But if you were employed for a long time and then all of a sudden for 1 month they give you a floating status, technically under the labor code, there's no such thing as floating status.
Yes, so it's either they terminated you or suspended you, but in either case, there has to be a valid or just cause for your termination or suspension. So either may violation ka, but then they're required to give you due process, meaning one, they should give you the opportunity, one, a notice that they're going to put you on suspension or that they're terminating you, but second, an opportunity for you to explain, and then third, they have to explain to you their decision for either suspending you or terminating you. Pero hindi pwedeng floating na, you don't even know what's going to happen to you. Okay. Our next recap question is from Shaila. My mom filed a case against my dad for VAUSI, or violence against women and their children. Can she withdraw her charges against him? How much will the bail be if the case pursues? Okay.
Ayan. So
well, one, vowsy kasi it has a criminal
aspect to
component.
it.
Yeah. So
they can, but the government can still pursue.
Yeah, so it depends at what stage na ba yung final ng mother mo, because if it's just at the stage of the prosecutor's office, meaning they're looking for probable cause pa lang, may preliminary investigation, then your mother can still desist from continuing with the case. But if this is already filed as a complaint by the public prosecutor, then it's really actually the government already that filed the complaint. So, kaya yung name ng cases would be Republic of the Philippines versus the name of your dad. So, in that case, it would require more than your mom's desistance for the case to be dismissed.
Yeah, and also with regards to bail, as we mentioned in our previous episode, is discretionary. It's discretionary on the court. However, if the bounce is based on the economic, if it's an economic violence, I think there are provisions in bail where there are specific bail amounts specific to the amount involved. So
yeah, so the amount of the bail would really depend on one. Yung circumstances nyo rin. First, depending on the gravity of the offense, is this serious physical injuries, or as Rod pointed out, baka economic abuse, meaning hindi binibigyan kayo ng economic support. So mag-iiba yung bail dyan. And also the ability of your father as the accused to pay the amount of bail. So those factors would play a role in deciding on the amount. So it's hard to say if it's just 20,000 or 50,000. It really depends on the judge and the circumstances.
All right. Okay. All right. Moving on to the comments we received. We received a comment from Janelle, and Janelle wrote, there's always been my dream to become a lawyer. That's why I always watch legal help desk so that I know more about the laws of our country. More power, Legal HD, and more power to you, Jimeno. Thank you.
That's so sweet. I hope he becomes a lawyer as well, because it's his dream.
Just make sure that Attorney Karen is not your teacher. So.
Are you threatening him? I'm a good professor.
Oh, you're a good professor.
And Princess wrote, I'm a law student and your show is great and I've learned so much from it. I now understand what bail is and the legalities behind it. Thanks to all of you.
All right,
Thank you, Princess, for watching.
Always important to know what bail's all about. You never know when you're going to need it. All right. That's all the time that we have for tonight. We'd like to thank our viewers who sent us their legal questions via social media. I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. If you have any questions for our topic for tonight, you may post these on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Join us again next Monday as we discuss your legal rights. Good night. Health is one of the most important things any person can have. However, not everyone has direct access to healthcare because it is too expensive. In fact, 60% of Filipinos die without seeking medical treatment. That means 6 out of 10 Filipinos who succumb to sickness die without ever seeing a doctor.
Dapat ang bawat Pilipino ay kahit wala kang pambayad, dapat bibigyan ka ng karampatang serbisyo sa kalusugan. Dahil buhay yung pinag-uusapan natin dito. Kahit mahirap ka o mayaman ka, ang value ng buhay mo, walang katumbas. So dapat bawat Pilipino meron talagang access to quality healthcare.
This is where the universal healthcare comes into the picture.
Yung universal healthcare kasi, pagmen goals.
However, a large number of the population are unaware that the UHC exists or that they can avail themselves of it. And many are still not members of PhilHealth or do not know how to apply and register. These are just some of the problems facing the UHC and the people who need it most. What is the universal health care? What does it cover? And how can we avail ourselves of this type of service? Good evening. You are watching Legal Help Desk on 9TV. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight, we will discuss your legal rights according to the Universal Healthcare Program, what you need to know about the program, and how to avail of it.
Our guests for tonight are Dr. Ramon Paterno, member of the Universal Healthcare Study Group of UP Manila, and Mai Fabros, WYC Coordinator of Women Health. Good evening, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Good evening. So, Dr. Buching Paterno, and
Yes.
of course, Mai.
Yes.
We can call you Dr. Buching, but so we want to make it more casual.
Yes, and I really find...
Okay.
And not on capacity to pay.
All right.
And it's not charity. We want to stress
Clarify
it's
that,
not
yeah.
charity for the poor.
Or a dole out. Or,
It's not a dole out because it's prepaid.
Okay.
It's prepaid either through taxes or social health insurance premiums. In our case, PhilHealth premiums. No?
Okay.
So Mai, maybe you can also start off from there, since it's already prepaid. How much would people expect to pay if you're covered by universal health
I
care?
think that it's important for people to know that who are covered in essence. So what Dr. Buching mentioned, that there are those who can avail of it primarily because they are employed and their employees are providing the premiums that are necessary. And there are those who are covered primarily because of the revenue and the resources that the government is putting into the PhilHealth. And one primary source of that is the syntax amended law, which provides, for instance, for this year, around 30.
I find this topic very relevant.
Yes.
One, you have this Ebola scare, so a lot of people are more conscious about getting sick or catching a virus that's very threatening. But second, I was sick for the past several days since last week up to now. And even in that short period, I was starting to see how expensive healthcare and medical costs can be.
Right.
So I was starting to think parang paano pa yung iba that earn less or have very little savings? How can they deal with sudden sicknesses or health issues?
Yeah, so maybe we can start off by, lest our audience might think this is Med Talk, this is Legal HD, but we would like, there are legal aspects to this also, because obviously people would like to know their rights with regard to this program or this law. So let's start off with what is universal health care and the whole program. What is it about?
I think the introductory film, the interview with Joanne Josana, I think she described it. No? Under a universal healthcare system, all Filipinos should have access to healthcare and health services based on health needs.
Tingin siya sa isang healthcare system na dapat bawat Pilipino ay makaka-access ng quality health services. At itong framework na ito ay binuo ng mga professors sa UP Manila noong 2009. So, doon nabuo yung blueprint ng universal healthcare.
The Universal Healthcare or Republic Act 10606 was signed into law last year by the President, granting health insurance for all Filipinos. The law will ensure everyone, especially the poorest of the poor, will get health insurance coverage from PhilHealth. Universal healthcare is a government mandate which ensures that every Filipino shall receive affordable and quality health benefits and services, including financing, as it is their right based on the Philippine Constitution.
Hindi lahat ng building blocks ng universal healthcare ay naisama doon sa tinatawag na Aquino Health Agenda. Ang naging tutok ng administration ay sa health financing, healthcare facilities, at saka yung sa attainment of the Millennium Development